injury wards filling up as one of the best in the West comes to town to put the oil to the test. We get you set for the Oilers in the Wild on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the pregame show on Edmonton Sports Talk. Tom Gazzola live on location, Hudson's White Avenue. Great to be back here at one of my favorite spots in the city and hanging out with everybody. Shout out to Sarah, Kel in the park, and Johnny, Alberta, already here hanging out, having a good time, and keeping me company. I appreciate that. As always, Hernan, Salas back at ESTHQ and doing all right, staying warm, I imagine. If you're driving out there and you're tuning in on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Apple Music, or EdmontonSportsTalk.com's audio player, drive safely, but don't drive dumb, because Nanso, people still drive dumb by going too slow, and that creates problems. So happy medium, take your time, turn your headlights on, and away we go. And to that, I just want to applaud everybody that's come out so far. AM Nasties, Nasties in general, PM Nasties. Yeah, that's a good one. I've learned how to use this button, Hernan. You like that?
Love it, man.
You love that. All right. Good. Got all these tricks. And the boys, I'm listening to the boys on my drive over, and I know that Jay's got his sounds that he likes to use. I'm like, I have that on this board that we have whenever we are on location. I'm like, I may as well put them to good use. So that's the new one. We all know this one, though, right? That's you on a Monday, Hernan.
That's me after an Oilers blowout.
Well, that was you after Saturday's loss, and people were like, "Oh my God, that's the Latino Heat," and I was like, "Yes, that's the passion right there." So absolutely full of fun. Oil Stream pregame show brought to you as always by GCL Diesel, providers of the best diesel engine components around, from turbochargers to injectors, fuel pumps to sensors. They are the critical engine component experts, proud to serve Edmonton and Northern Alberta for over 50 years. Of course, get in on the conversation. Hit us up at the text line 780-218-9999, or get into the nasty chat if you're watching on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tell your friends. We appreciate you as this train keeps on rolling. The Oilers 10-8-2, Minnesota 12-3-3. It is game number 21 of the season. Matt Cassian, our game analyst, will be stopping by in a few minutes, and then we'll get the wild side of the story from Sarah McClellan from the Minnesota Star Tribune. Nancito, how are you feeling going into this game?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, Tom. Even if they had the full lineup, like I said, it's a dominant Minnesota Wild team against the Oilers, no matter where the teams are in the standings. But right now, Minnesota Wild, really good season so far, just behind the Winnipeg Jets, and close considering what the Jets did early on in the season, going on an absolute tear there, Tommy. But, yeah, a little concerned. I mean, you're missing Viktor Arvidsson, Darnell Nurse. They've missed a few games already, but Zach Hyman's a big one. I know he's not off to the best start, on his season, but he's still a quality player, an important player for this team. So a little concerning because Drake Gazzola, fourth line, probably going to play minimal minutes. I get why they called him up, because he's a guy that's not going to get overwhelmed. He's a veteran guy, and if he has to play 5 minutes, that's okay. And Kasperi Kapanen, I think, gets into the top six by default. And he said it too. He goes, guys, my first game, let's just play the game and we'll wait and see. I feel like he's not putting too much pressure on himself, and I don't think we should either, because he's not the savior. If you can come in and have a good game and chip in, sure, that'd be great for the Edmonton Oilers. Fans would be super pumped about that. But we'll see. He's playing with Nuge, who's struggling this year. Skinner, who's been kind of in the doghouse this last week or so, Tom. So it's going to be a tough line. Not a lot of chemistry, not a lot of familiarity there between.
And not a lot of production.
And not a lot of production. So, yeah, I'm a little concerned. I think this is going to be a tough game for the Oilers, as it generally is when they play the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah, they've struggled against the Wild. I can get into those numbers in a little bit. Share your thoughts. How do you feel going into this one? If you have high expectations for Kasperi Kapanen, I applaud you. But he has 1 goal and is -6 and 2 penalty minutes in the 10 games he has played this season. That's no bueno, as we like to say, Hernan. That is no bueno at all. All right, let's get into starting lineup. 780-218-9999. Nasty chat, do your thing. Give us your thoughts. Hernan, really quickly, do you want to give the question of the night out before I go to starting lineups, or do you want me to go starting lineups, then question of the night?
Do the starting lineup, and I'll give you the question.
I love it.
If that's cool.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Let's go to the Oilers. Here's what we're expecting tonight. It's the Podkolzin line with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. We jest. But that line had a good night in Ottawa the other night. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who you heard Nanso talking about with Jeff Skinner, and the newly acquired Kasperi Kapanen. Who knows? Henrique between Janmark and Brown, Derek Ryan centering Corey Perry, and the recently recalled Drake Gazzola. On defense for the Oilers, Ekholm with Bouchard, Kulak with Everson, Dermott with Stetcher. Josh Brown also recalled after being sent down. He has played the last couple of games for the Oil, and it's anticipated he will not draw in tonight. As for Mini, Joel Eriksson Ek with Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Boldy. Marco Rossi with Marcus Johansson and Ryan Hartman. Freddie Gaudreau with Marcus Foligno and Yakov Trenin. Here's where it gets funky. I want to get this right because it's a doozy. It is centering the fourth line. Marat Husnutdinov. Centering Jacob Loco and Devon Shore, the former Oiler. Marat Husnutdinov. It doesn't look that way when you read it, but that's how you say it, according to the NHL's pronunciation guide. On defense for Mini tonight, Jake Middleton paired up with Brock Faber, Jonas Brodin with Jared Spurgeon, Declan Chisholm with Zach Bogosian. We're expecting Ben Jones to be the odd man out for the Wild. Now, starting goalies for Edmonton, 26-year-old Stu Skinner, 6'5" 2, 318 goals against average, 881 save percentage, one shutout in 13 games this season. Played really well against Ottawa the other night. Lifetime versus the Wild, Skinner, 2-1, 234 GAA, 926 save percentage in 3 appearances. At the other end of the rink, Hernan, bittersweet. It will be the last time Edmonton fans here in the city, unless they go to the postseason and face the Wild, we'll see Marc-Andre Fleury, the 39-year-old, going into his swan song here. And he's 3-0-1 so far this season, 270 GAA, 904 save percentage, 4 games played this year for Fleury. The legend, the flower, 16-6-1 versus the Oilers. Lifetime with a 239 goals against average, 922 save percentage, 2 shutouts in the 23 games he has faced Edmonton. Just a quick thought on Marc-Andre Fleury, maybe?
Yeah, no, an excellent goaltender, Stanley Cup champ. It seems like a guy that always carried himself the right way with a ton of class. A hell of a goaltender. We always remember the yellow pads in the World Juniors, a big part of the Penguins teams, and it's great. And I think the Oilers, I'm not going to say they get a break because he's an excellent goaltender, but Gustafsson's been absolutely unreal. But great for Edmonton fans to see him one last time, like you said, unless they meet in the playoffs. But Marc-Andre Fleury will always be a guy that did it the right way, of a ton of class, and one of the good ones in the game of hockey, Tom.
Well said. I was on my way from the rink back home, ran into some Oilers/Wild fans who had a sign at Fort Hall, and it said, "We love you, Fleury." And they happened to be listening to the Oil Stream Minute. Oh. And I was like, hey, all right. And then they're like, Tom, who's starting tonight for the Wild? And I was like, Fleury was in the starter's net. And they're like, yes. Yeah. And they had a kid or two with them, and they're like, yes. I was like, that's awesome. I appreciate that very much. Part of a dying breed, Marc-Andre Fleury, the excellent Canadian goaltender. Doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. Maybe in the near future. All right, we got to get to the Advantage Sports Medicine and Physiotherapy Injury Report right before Maddie Cassian joins us. At Advantage Sports Medicine and Physiotherapy, we treat you like the pros. Our multidisciplinary team includes sports medicine physicians, along with highly skilled physiotherapists, strength and conditioning coaches, and massage therapists. Whether you're recovering from an injury or looking to enhance performance, we treat you like a pro, using the same locker room approach trusted by the best in the game. For the Oilers, oh boy, Darnell Nurse, day-to-day, upper body. He did skate this morning. That's important. Has not been ruled out for Saturday. Could play against the New York Rangers. Zach Hyman is expected to miss 4 to 7 days, according to Chris Knobloch. I found that 4 to 7 days oddly, oddly accurate or oddly detailed. And when he said it, I was like, 4 to 7 days. All right, then. Viktor Arvidsson has been placed on IR, undisclosed. That is not a good sign. That is part of why they've picked up Kasperi Kapanen. And then Evander Kane, of course, IR abdominal surgery. Don't expect to see him soon as he recovers from a plethora of injuries and subsequent surgery. As for the Minnesota Wild, just one big one to pass along your way when it comes to the injury report. Matt Zuccarello, he's on the IR with a lower body issue, obviously an impact player, so that'll hurt the Wild a little bit, although they seem to be doing just fine without Matt Zuccarello at 12, 3, and 3. That's your Advantage Sports Medicine injury report. No Nurse, no Hyman, no Arvidsson, no Kane for the Oilers, no Zuccarello for the Wild. All right, keep those texts coming in. 780-218-9999. Tom Gazzola on location. Hudson's Wet Avenue. Come on down. I know the roads aren't particularly great. People taking it gingerly out there, and I respect that very much. Be safe, but also don't go to the point where it's too slow, and that can cause issues as well. Just be safe. Tread lightly out there and turn your headlights on, as Will Fraser likes to say. All right, let's get to Matt Cassian, our game analyst, who joins us for Game Changers, brought to you as always by Damon Bunting Remax Elite. Damon Bunting, consistent top producing realtor in Greater Edmonton and among Western Canadian Remax realtors. He and his team would love to help you find that right home or make the move from your current home. Check him out, DamonBunting.com, or visit his Instagram at Damon Bunting Real Estate. Hello, Cass. You're wearing your knit cap, I see.
Yep, we got the knit cap. It's cold outside. I shoveled 3 times today. I shoveled before work, I shoveled after work, and then I shoveled after ringette practice. So yeah, lots of shoveling going on. So I didn't feel like taking the hat off. I was like, I'm just gonna keep it on. Keep the sweater on too. Stay warm.
Party cardi. You have a few of those. Hey, by the way, I saw Chappie yesterday. I saw your dad. He's chaplain with the Elks, and I think he took a selfie with Belzy and I hope he sent it to you.
Yep. Oh, yeah. No, it probably was within seconds of you seeing him that he sent those off. So yeah, no, we got him. He was pretty excited. He always is excited to see you guys. So he's a good man. I love right away.
I love Chappie. Cass's dad, Brent, good man. And then I think Belzy dropped the line like, "How did you and your wife produce a grizzly bear like Matt?" So. And Belzy beats that with nothing but love and appreciation.
Yep. And I can pretty much guarantee you what my father would say. He probably would have looked at him and said, "Well, he gets it all from his mom." That's probably what he would have said. So,
Chappie, Brent with the zingers. I love it. All right, Cass, let's get into Game Changers here as the Oilers take on one of your former teams, the Minnesota Wild. Not the same type of team as when you played for them about a decade ago. But we'll see what happens tonight on the ice. The Wild, and you were part of it too, owning the Oilers in the last 2 decades for sure. All right, number one, Cass, it's happening.
It is happening. Kasperi Kapanen stepping into lineup. A little bit of speed here for the Edmonton Oilers, which is really the only reason. I mean, well, maybe 2 reasons that they picked him off waivers. One is you think you have the speed. Maybe Arvidsson's injury is worse than originally expected or going to take some time. And then he's a guy that can potentially score 20. Maybe,
sure.
Maybe, but plays with some speed and something that at times maybe has been lacking a little bit for the Edmonton Oilers, and so you're going to get a little bit of a look-see here with him actually needing to play some major minutes with all the injuries to the Edmonton Oilers. Like it's opportunity time. Do we want to call it opportunity time for some of these guys? I mean, you're picked up off the waiver wire and you're basically getting thrown to a situation where the team needs you. This isn't like, hey, you're going to be in and out of the lineup. Like you probably are going to get some significant minutes here. Mm-hmm. And for Captain, again, a guy that let's hope relies on his speed. Let's hope uses his speed, but will be interesting, fresh off waivers, pick up. He is a veteran guy, again, that's been around. It's not like he hasn't played in the NHL. He's scored a significant number of goals at the NHL. Now, to get to that 20, you got to go back to 18, 19. Like, it's some time ago. But a guy that on occasion has put the puck in the net and hopefully for Edmonton, can generate some offense and maybe turn over some pucks on the forecheck and, I don't know, maybe do something 5-on-5, which is going to be a challenge against a very stingy Minnesota Wild team.
Kapanen, 20 goals in the 18-19 season, 24 assists that year, 44 points. That was his best year offensively. The last time, that was the only time he hit 40 points. He hit 30 a couple of times, Cass. And actually, the last time he did was when he split a season between Pittsburgh and St. Louis, getting to 34 points. He had 18 goals that season. Or no, 15 goals that season. So the offense hasn't been there. For the mindset and psyche for a guy that really didn't have a lot of offensive production in St. Louis in his 2 seasons there, let's call it, how much does a clean slate help a guy like that?
I think it can. And if he comes in here with the right attitude, now maybe getting put on waivers and getting picked up is a little bit of a wake-up call for him, where it's not just going to be handed to you. Not that it was handed to him his first year in St. Louis or, after the trade from Pittsburgh, but he is a guy that, has, at times, he's shown some offensive potential.
Right.
And maybe was being asked to play a little bit of a different role and had some challenges adapting to it. I haven't watched him a ton, so it's hard to say exactly if that was the case, but you do have a fresh start here. And again, you're coming into a situation, Tom, where there's a lot of banged up Edmonton Oilers. Like, he is going to get a chance right away to play some important minutes, and you're playing them against a team that is a pretty good hockey team. Not necessarily a deep offensive hockey team, but they're really good when you look at, in total, the offense that Kaprizov is able to drive, that top line in particular, and then structurally the way they play just a sound, solid defensive game. Yeah. This is a good Minnesota Wild team, and for Kapanen, I mean, it's a tall order to ask for him to step into this and to have a night, but step into it and have a night is what the Oilers need because, again, bodies are out, and he's getting a chance here, Tom.
Mini, if you're wondering, their goal production, they're 10th in the NHL. Their goals for per game, 339. That's tied for 9th, actually, with the Dallas Stars. And I saw a text that came in via the inbox from Deke Sparks about Kasperi Kapanen. Scored 20 in 4 seasons, maybe, or 20 on the Condors, says Deke Sparks. A little bit of, what was it, pessimism? Or what did you call Dusty earlier today? Was it cynic? You called him a cynic.
A cynic or a negative Nancy, or there's a few, different, but cynic. I like that word right now. That's a good one.
I did enjoy listening to you guys today. You guys had a very good show. So 2 Guys and Goalie, check it out Tuesdays and Thursdays right here on EST. All right, number 1 on Game Changers with Matt Cassian was It's Kapanen with Kasperi Kapanen joining the fold with the orange and blue. Number 2, Cass, the thrill has arrived.
He has, and in my world, he's been here for a while. Like, he's arrived a while ago. Was my early season pick for the Hart Trophy, and has factored in on over 50% of the Minnesota Wild's goals. Let that sink in for a second. He is factored in on over 50% of the Minnesota Wild goals. This guy is Hernan. What does fuego mean? Could you fill us in? What
Fire.
Fire. Oh, okay. He's on fire. He is on fuego. I don't know the proper. Yeah. El fuego. Diablo. Fuego. Diablo. Baño. Yeah.
Did you drop a bathroom in there?
No, I don't even know what I'm saying.
Hernan, what's he saying?
Yeah. Baño's bathroom.
Yeah.
I don't speak Spanish.
Where's the biblioteca?
The biblioteca, Baño, Diablo,
Very
Tequila,
good.
those. Listen, Kaprizov is a fun player to watch.
Yes.
Really, really exciting. Very, very skilled. He is quick. He is slippery, sees the ice really well. Great shot and great pass. Like, he truly is a player that can, he can do everything. He's one of the best players in the league, probably mostly underrated because everyone still thinks of Minnesota as being like this defensive Jacques Lemaire stalwart team. And in some ways they are. Like, they play really good team defense. They collapse well to the net. They have a really underrated, solid defensive core. Really helped with Jared Spurgeon missed and biased towards him completely is a good friend of his. I'm completely biased towards him, but he really anchors that blue line. And with him coming back this season off of a major injury that took him out of a good chunk of last year, their defense is just good. And you then throw in some of their other players that are playing well and rising to the top, as it were, and having good seasons, like a Matt Boldy, who is just been absolutely tremendous as well, where they have some offensive punch. And again, just completely driven by Kaprizov. And for an Edmonton team that has struggled to put the puck in 5-on-5 and at times struggled to keep it out of their own net, this is going to be a real challenge. Like, you look at like a Toronto. Austin Matthews was out of the lineup. They still have some really good players. Yep. But this probably is, and I'm trying to think of who else we would have seen. Now, some people would put Sidney Crosby on that list, but this year where it's like, oh, this guy is going to be at like that heart level. Now, maybe you could talk like Hellebuck and the Winnipeg Jets when you played them earlier in the year. We didn't know it at the time, but it's like, yeah, they're really, really good. But they haven't played a single player yet this season that's having a year like Kaprizov is, where it's like, if he has a night, he can burn you, even if you play pretty well. Yeah. But it's going to be a major challenge for Edmonton. I'm assuming the Bouchard-Ekholm pairing is who they're going to try to get out there against them most of the night. Because after that, you're kind of like, well, do we really trust some of those other defensemen? Do we trust Kulak? Sure. But do we trust Emberson against? That's
a tough challenge for a guy like Emberson.
It's a tough challenge for a guy like Emberson, who's actually, he's started to do some better things.
Good point.
I think his physical game's coming out a little bit. Like he's getting a little better. But to ask him to defend Kaprizov for a whole night, probably not going to happen. So, up and down the lineup, it's going to be tough. And then there are the intricacies of seeing exactly how Knobloch's going to try to run his own matchups from a forward standpoint. Again, with a bunch of guys being hurt. The Podkolzin line, because we're going to call it that. The Podkolzin line is kind of your natural. We're going to go best on best here with McDavid and Draisaitl anchoring the Podkolzin line. That could be the first look, but then beyond that, and we'll talk about him in a second. It's like, okay, I think Knobloch has his work cut out for him tonight in how he runs these matchups. Kaprizov's going to see a lot of ice time. And trying to manage that back end in particular, but the forward group too, to see who's playing against him, who's going to try to shut him down. Are you able to keep him to the outside and do so while still taking away his time and space, because he is skilled enough that you give him that extra 2 steps of room backing in, he's going to find somebody and make a play. So a tall order for Edmonton defensively tonight.
I just want to read this one. It's from Brandon, who's from Windsor, and he texts in, "Here comes the wild love from Cass. Sheesh." LOL. I just thought it was funny.
People rip on me for that too. They're like, you always pumping up the Wild in the sense, and I'm like, well, I do want them to. Like, I want them to do
them.
And then, I know like Ottawa's in the other conference, Minnesota's in the other division at least, but it's like, yeah, I want them to do well. I got to cheer for Edmonton first. Of course, I'm going to cheer for Edmonton first, but it's like, I like those other teams to do well too. And it does mean I pay a little bit more attention to them than maybe some of the other teams we don't see as much. But you know what? I don't care. You can make fun of me. Wow, they're a good team this year. Stats show it, even if Dusty and Gager hate Kaprizov and think that he's horrible.
You are my number 1 Minnesota Wild alumni. Number 2, Sean Bell, distant number 2. He's my number 1 Habs alumni. I will say that.
There you go.
Yeah, and then far behind him, Ben Scrivens.
Yeah, I love Scrivy's down the list somewhere.
He's down the list. He's somewhere. But anyway, it is Game Changers with Matty Cassian, brought to you by Damon Bunting Remax Elite. We're live on location, Hudson's White Ave. Come on down. Rob from the Grove's like, Tommy, you going to be here all game? Yes. The plan was to go to the rink and make the quick drive back over to downtown, but not in these conditions. So I will be parked here with Sarah and Cal in the park as well as Johnny Alberta, and hopefully a few more nasties. Kind of filling up a little bit. Cold winter's night, but we're going to have some fun, stay warm together, enjoy some delicious beverages and sustenance, great food here at Hudson's White. All right, number 3, Cass, on Game Changers. So too, Nuge must rise.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, hey, time to step up, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. If there ever was one, to have a night where you watch and we're like, whoa, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is on one. He's found ways to chip in on the power play and get points here or there. But we have yet to see a game this year. Not that I expect Ryan Nugent-Hopkins to be dominant, but we expect him to have some good nights, don't we? Isn't that a fair expectation at this point of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins to say, like, he should have a couple really good nights where we're like, whoa, yeah, I mean, and get a ton of chances, put the puck in the net, get like 2 or 3 points that he's generating, not just McDavid or Draisaitl. Like, shouldn't we see that, Tom?
I just expect him to be effective in a positive way. I don't need him to be a driver. This is just my take on it. But, Cass, if he's effective, makes the right plays, and maybe adds a little bit of offense at this point in his career, as long as he's a good complementary piece, I think that's best.
I agree with you, Tommy, but you have Zach Hyman hurt.
Yeah.
You have Arvidsson hurt. Right? Like you have 2 top 6 players
tonight, good point. Sorry, that was my general take on
so
Ryan.
Generally, I'm on board with you, and I agree with you. But when guys are down and they're not having nights, because you can't expect it to be Leon and McDavid
good point.
every single night. It's like, well, no, he has to find ways to step up. And he's done that in the past. This year, he hasn't so much. And I don't think he's been horrible, bad, awful, like no good. It's like he's been okay defensively. Offensively, he hasn't been able to get it going 5-on-5. And again, against a team that plays really good team defense in the Minnesota Wild, you need Ryan Nugent-Hopkins to have a night.
How much did that goal help him, and does that get him off the schneid, so to speak?
I hope. I mean, I guess we'll find out, won't we? We'll find out if it helped him. I think it was important for him to get it. I think even just as a team to have that game against Ottawa where you had a solid game and it wasn't like it was tight, close. It was like you had control of that game. And for a good portion of the game, you were in the driver's seat. And hopefully that helps mentally. But we'll see. We will see. It should help him, but we'll find out.
We'll find out. Cass, tonight it's happening, I should say. The thrill has arrived was point number 2. Point number 3, so too, Nuge must rise. Before we get to Sarah McClellan, we have a couple minutes here. Nanso, do you have the question of the night ready? And will we get Cass to be the first one to answer it?
Yeah, it's not the best question, but it's something we discussed on
just pump it up as the best.
It's the best question ever.
There you go.
It's just because Zach Hyman's out. He's a big part of 5-on-5, big part of the power plays. We want to ask the Nasties and Matt Cassian and Tom Gazzola, who would you play in place of Hyman on the power play? Give me 2 options. Your top 2.
Go, Cassian.
I'm probably going Skinner. Trying to get him going. Trying to get some offense there. Yep, I probably go. He is a guy. I know he hasn't been great at times, but he has offensive touch. Or he has shown that he's had that in the past. He's a guy that's played on power plays that were pretty good power plays. I'm going with Jeff Skinner.
I like that. Where's he? Because you're supposed to give 2. Answer.
The second
correctly.
one.
Yeah.
Jeff Skinner.
So Jeff Skinner and Jeff Skinner are your
Jeff Skinner and Jeff
Skinner. You get
Skinner.
a half point for that answer.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you're looking at Adam Henrique. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. But you're probably. Yeah. I just have a hard time getting away from Skinner on that.
I like the Skinner one. I think I talked about it on EST Afternoons with Hernan and Joaquin. And the other one that I'm, for whatever reason, I think that this guy might get a look. Then that's Corey Perry as VR Montenegro makes his triumphant debut and entrance into Hudson's White Avenue. What do you guys think of that? Perry, I
like Skinner, but I think it's going to be Perry to start.
Yeah, it might be. Trying to have that net front guy. Maybe. Yep. You guys could be right. It could be Perry. Yep.
Really quickly, I know we're going to get to Sarah McClellan here, but we've been saying that Jeff Skinner's in the doghouse. I just feel like, I don't know if he's necessarily in the doghouse. He just hasn't done anything, but he should be in a position to take advantage and score. And I don't know. I think they're still willing to do that and give him opportunities. He's not a healthy scratch yet, so I would just say they're kind of making him ride the pine a little. I don't know if a doghouse. Maybe it's too harsh. Maybe I'm just being very sensitive towards Jeff Skinner.
Why do you love Jeff Skinner so much, man? I mean, this is like.
That's a great question. I have no allegiance to Jeff Skinner, but that's a great question. Very valid. I don't know. To me, he's a hired gun.
Mark, so.
Matthias, I only have room in my heart for one current Oiler that is perimeter and minimally effective offensively, and that still belongs to Matthias Janmark. Cass, awesome stuff. Your knit cap with Cardi looks awesome as usual, and I look forward to seeing you on the post-game show.
It sounds good, guys. Look forward to it.
Great stuff, my friend. All right, text us, 780-218-9999, the question of the night. Who do you think should be on Power Play 1 in Zach Hyman's role as he is out for now? And we expect him to be out 4 to 7 days, according to Chris Knobloch. Viktor Arvidsson also now on the IR, and Darnell Nurse, who did skate today, has not been ruled out for Saturday. That's an interesting development for the Edmonton Oilers. Let us know. Who do you think should be on the power play in Zach Hyman's place? 780-218-9999. Get into the nasty chat as well. I'm live on location. Hudson's White Ave on a chilly Thursday in Edmonton. Come stay warm. Be merry as we have a great time, as always, here at Hudson's White. Shout out to Connor and the crew. They're always gracious hosts with us here. Let's see. What else? Corey B says, sorry, Tommy, I'm going to see Eric tonight. I understand. It's hard. We're tearing at the hearts of the nasties because Eric's live on location at Century Casino tonight. It's always a good time over there. Hersey texting in says, evening, big dogs. With Arvidsson hurt already into the season, it has to beg the question, why did they sign him? No, his track record speaks for itself for injuries, and here we are. The big question in the summer was if he will stay healthy. I understand the player, but it's a little bit of a gamble, and the Oilers aren't in the gambling business. Are they now? Thoughts? This was part of it. Last week, when we were asking Chris Knobloch heading into that game on Thursday, how long will Arvidsson be out? He's just like, yeah, he should be back right away. Misses the game on Saturday against the Leafs. Doesn't play against the Habs. Doesn't play against Ottawa. Here we are going on game number 4 with no Viktor Arvidsson and now no Zach Hyman. All right, let us know your thoughts. 780-218-9999. If you're watching on YouTube, get into the nasty chat. Well, you can catch us on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and Apple Music, as well as the EdmontonSportsTalk.com audio player. As we roll along here, live on location, Hudson's White Avenue, Tom Gazzola, Hernan Salas, and Sarah McClellan from the Minnesota Star Tribune. She's from Edmonton, but she has been traveling spent a lot of time covering the Coyotes in Arizona and is now covering the Wild. Sarah, welcome back to a winter wonderland. You're no stranger to it.
I know. I would say I brought the snow with me, but it wasn't really snowing in Minnesota, so you can't blame this on me.
I will not blame you for anything. You are my friend, and I will defend you to the death. All right, Sarah, let's go.
It's pretty cold still, though.
I know. It is cold. You're still soft because you were in Arizona for so long. Yeah. All right, let's go into this one. The Wild coming off a win in St. Louis on Tuesday. They've improved to 8-1-2 on the road, which is huge. What elements of their game has been strong, and that has led to this great road record?
You know, I think the road has kind of just brought out the best in them, and I think it kind of forces them to play the style that would click for them no matter where they played. You know, this is a team that kind of hangs around early. Usually, like especially last game in St. Louis for them, they're boosted early by their goaltending. You know, their goaltender kind of weathers an early push from the other team. They start to find their legs, and they usually score first. And when they score first, they kind of get into the driver's seat, and they have had a lot of success that way. They've rarely trailed this season, especially on the road. So they kind of do just that textbook road hockey game. They're opportunistic on offense. They kind of wait for their chances, really try to lean into that special teams battle. but they get timely saves and timely goals. And at the end of the night, they're usually, in a situation where they're protecting a 1 or 2 goal lead. They get the empty netter, and it's another 3-2, 4-2 win. And it's a recipe, I think, that just suits this team. Obviously, there's a superstar at the top of the lineup in Kirill Kaprizov. There's obviously a big defenseman that they rely on a lot in Brock Faber. They've had terrific goaltending from Philip Gustafsson. But other than that, it's been very by committee. And if you talk to them, they really think their success is predicated on how connected they are in their game, being a 5-man unit. And they've really played that way when they've had a lot of their success on the road.
Wow, contributions from all over the lineup. That's something that the Oilers dearly lack. And many scoring first, 10-1-2 record. Pretty darn good. And we'll see if the Oilers can stymie that tonight. All right, Sarah, you mentioned Kirill Kaprizov, and then you talk about the committee that everyone's pitching in, which is great. But let's hone in on Kaprizov. We know he's a superstar. He's been great for the last handful of years. He's got 33 points in 18 games. Has he been able to find another level even? Is that fair to say?
It seems so. It just kind of seems like this is maybe the natural progression for him, where he's at in the NHL now. He's had a couple years under his belt. If you think his first year, his rookie year, it was that COVID season. So it was a shortened season. He wasn't playing the entire league. And so it's kind of different. Can you imagine breaking into the NHL and you're playing in front of empty arenas and piped in crowd noise? Like, it just wasn't a normal, typical environment for him. So I think it's just kind of year after year, he's gotten better. Obviously, he's been healthy so far this season, which I think has been key for him to really showcase, the range of his skill set. Because you're right, it's he puts up the points, he scores big goals, he's key on the power play. But he's also in situations that not all superstars play in. He's out there late in games protecting 1-goal leads. That's probably why he leads the NHL in empty net goals. He's in these situations where it's not just all about the offense. He's a very team-forward player. He cares about his puck play. He wants to be responsible. And so he really is, an all-over-the-ice presence for the Wild. And I think obviously looking to kind of the landscape of the league early, Connor McDavid was injured. The Oilers kind of got off to a slow start. Same with Colorado. Kind of, the other juggernauts around the NHL, the McDavids, the McKinnons, they kind of seem like this really opened the door for Kaprizov to maybe get more of the spotlight, especially with the Wild doing so well and being a top team early. That I think is opening more eyes wide to the talent that he's really always been. This is kind of what we see every night from him, but still, I think this has been a new level for him, and it just kind of seems like it's right on par with him being in the prime of his career right now.
Yeah, it's pretty damn impressive, that is for sure. Sarah McClellan joining us now from the Minnesota Star Tribune as we get you set for the Oilers and the Wild here on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. All right, Minnie, defensively, Sarah, has been pretty darn strong. Like, they're right up there with Carolina. They're only giving up 2.33 goals against per game. So you mentioned Brock Faber. I wanted to ask you which other players have really become pillars on the back end. And I know they have a couple of veterans in Jonas Brodin and Jared Spurgeon, but is this a by committee thing on the blue line, or are there a couple of stars that they're just relying upon to hold the fort defensively for this Wild club?
It is by committee for sure, especially, you have a second pair, I guess you could call them, in Brodin and Jared Spurgeon. But alongside Faber has been Jake Middleton, and I think he's had a really, really solid start to the season. He is very strong in his own end, kind of that shot-blocking, gritty player that you would expect to just kind of clog up shooting lanes, be able to track, players and box out and do really well in front of his own net. But where he's really taken strides so far this season is his breakouts and just helping the team transition. And that's really, I think, at the crux of the style they want to play under John Hyman since he came over last season after Dean Evison was fired. Is, the less you can play defense, the more you can play on offense. And they really try to execute a get-up-and-go style and be quick out of their end. And Middleton, who's someone who, perennially in his career hasn't really been known for his offensive side of his game, he really much arrived from San Jose in a trade a few seasons back as this shot blocker, steady stay-at-home defenseman. He's really been helping lead that charge and helping the team get offense from its defense and just, turn the play the other way. So him and Faber have been playing together. I think we all figured that Middleton would reunite with Spurgeon when Spurgeon came back this season after he had season-ending surgeries last season. But it's been this Faber-Middleton duo that's been really solid and kind of headlining this blue line so far.
Sarah, what about between the pipes? I know we're going to see Marc-Andre Fleury tonight, and you mentioned Gustafson's been really good for the Wild. Sounds like you said, all three facets of this team, defense, goaltending, and the forwards are clicking. But Marc-Andre Fleury, I called him like the last of a dying breed, good Canadian goaltenders who were superstars in this league. And you saw the reception he got in Pittsburgh. That was phenomenal. This will be likely the last time we see him here in Edmonton. What kind of effect can a essentially backup goalie, albeit a legend, have on a pretty good Minnesota Wild club? How would you describe it?
Yeah, I think he's a player that this team will always want to play hard for. He hasn't played in 2 weeks. His last start would have been 2 weeks ago in San Jose. And it really has been tough to pry the crease away from Gustafsson because his numbers were right up there near the top of the league. So you understand it. They've kind of had a little bit of a spaced out schedule lately, so they haven't had many back-to-backs where they've had to rely on him. But you're right. He's a future Hall of Famer. This is his last season before he retires. You saw this end up in Pittsburgh. There still is that element, of this being this last go-around for Fleury and kind of, the legacy that he's built and is still building. He's actually won his last few games. Like, it's not like his performance has pulled him out of the net. He's been effective when he's been in there his last few starts, but Gustafsson has just been so airtight. But I think with Fleury, though, he's such a team player. He's such a beloved teammate that whenever he's in there, you just see the way the players in front of him want to play for him, want to get him that win. He still has the chance, to move up in wins and games played. And, he's already the second winningest goaltender of all time. So there's just that extra special factor when he's in net. And I think you'll see that on display tonight, especially, like I said, because he hasn't played in a while.
Yeah, there was I mentioned it earlier in the show, there was a bunch of people in Ford Hall, some with Oilers jerseys, others with Wild jerseys, and a sign that said, "We love you, Flower." And when they asked me if he was starting, and I said yes, they got very, very excited. So he is beloved around the National Hockey League. All right, Sarah, last one for you. What kind of game do you anticipate, and how does the Minnesota Wild hold off the Vasily Podkolzin line that happens to have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on it with the driver, Vasily Podkolzin, as we've been joking the last couple of days here in Edmonton?
Well, you know what? This is, oddly enough, a matchup that's kind of flattered the Wild in recent years. I don't know why, but they seem to just match up well against Edmonton, especially in this building. I don't know if it's just kind of their steady stay-at-home style. They don't want to get into a track meet, right? That's not their game. They're not going to try to chase the Oilers all night. So they can stick to their style and just kind of clog up the zones, keep these players to the outside, try to negate their speed as best as they can. Again, they find their opportunities, and they usually capitalize on them. They have really clutch scoring at the right times, and it's not racking up 40, 50 shots a night. That's not their game. So if they can stick to their style and not try to play the Oilers style, I think that's what's worked for them in the past. And like I said, look for the Faber-Middleton, defensive pair to probably get a lot of those matchups. Brodin as well. But those are players that I think have the skating ability on the back end to try to keep up with that line.
Edmonton 2-8 versus the Minnesota Wild in the last 10 meetings. We'll see how it goes tonight. Sarah, always great to see you. It was a pleasure this morning, and even better to have you on the show once again. Enjoy the Oilers in the Wild and safe travels, okay?
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right, there's Sarah McClellan from the Minnesota Star-Tribune. Nanso, she's an Edmonton girl originally. Moved to the desert with the fam. Began her journalism career covering the Coyotes, a bunch of AAZ sports teams, and then she went to a much better hockey market in Minnesota, and it's great to see her. She's awesome, one of the best, and so happy to have her on the show. Great to see her this morning.
Yeah, no, I remember her with Arizona back in the 1260 days, and I know she made the move to Minnesota. I didn't know she was from Edmonton, though, till today, so that's pretty cool. back home and dealing with these cold temperatures. But I mean, Minnesota's, they
It's
get
cold
some,
too there.
Yeah, they get some of this. So
Yeah.
definitely. But yeah, intriguing. That first line for Minnesota is just a treat to watch. They're big, they're heavy, they'll lean on you, and they're skilled, Tommy. So the Oilers better be ready to go. And I kind of like Cass's third point, Nuge. Like Nuge, you need to step up here, buddy. Like everybody loves this guy. Everybody, like you can't do no wrong, but he hasn't been very good this year. And like you said, hopefully that goal can get him going a bit. He's got a new line mate today and a guy that's kind of, you make a good point. Probably not in the doghouse. He's just, I don't know what it is.
I don't know. That's just my thought. Like we've heard doghouse from all kinds of outlets, and like he doesn't play a lot, but I don't think people expected him to provide, or it was if people expected Jeff Skinner to provide a solid 200-foot game, they were mistaken. And we talked about it so many times going into the season. It's like he plays good in one zone. And he's done that in little spurts here and there, but not consistently enough. And maybe that kind of hasn't fit in with what Chris Knobloch and Glenn Gulletson are trying to make happen on the offensive side or the forward unit. So I don't know. It's been frustrating though. Absolutely. Though you need production from a lot more than just Jeff Skinner. Where the hell's Adam Henrique?
Yeah,
where's Connor Brown?
He hasn't been very good. Connor Brown. He scored those 2 goals in that one game, but outside of that, he hasn't done much since the start of the season, Tom. So, a lot of guys have to step up, and I think that's why. I mean, the pod father, the pod Colson, is. It's funny, Tom, because listen, and I said it on EST afternoons. Like I think we can all appreciate what he's doing out there. Like he's working his butt off. He's the coach is noticing, the top players are noticing, and he's getting a shot. Right, but that's how low the bar is with the struggling. It's not a struggling team, but it's a team that's underachieving with a lot of their players. That where a guy with 5 assists is all of a sudden like the fan favorite. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
I do.
But that's the reality of the situation, right? When you have Hyman struggling, Nuge, your third line's not giving you anything. Do you know what I mean? Jeff Skinner's second or fourth line. Arvidsson's been out, so I understand it and I get it. And it's not a knock on Podkolzin. He's playing where they're telling him to play, and he's out there working his butt off. He produced last game. Hopefully, he can continue to produce tonight because they're going to need that top line going, Tom.
Yeah, especially with how good this Wild team A when they score first, and B on the road is. So 8-1-2 on the road, 10-1-2 when they score first in games so far this season. It's weird, Hernan, because like we're talking about an Oilers team that has 6 wins in its last 3 games, but the way they've lost games and to who they've lost games and the way even the wins at times, like pissing away leads.
That's what we were talking about today as well. Is just you look at the standing and it's like we're overreacting, but that's what you do in a mad, crazy city like Edmonton when it comes to their hockey team. But they're right there with the top teams in their division, but they still haven't looked like the team that we saw late last year and well into the playoffs. And we might get that team eventually, Tom. We might not. I mean, we're already 20 games into this season. This might be a team that's going to have a lot of down years for the players, and they're going to have to find a way. And that's just the reality of it. Now, can they turn it around? Sure, of course they can. But, right now, Tom, the special teams has been a big story. The goaltending, the D-core, that not being able to score, and now add the injury bug. Like it's
that's gonna literally hurt, but figuratively as well. And Nanso, what's weird too? We talk about the frustrations of this process and the method in which the Oilers have found themselves in this position. With a win tonight, they can have a share of first in the Pacific. Of course, Vegas has played less games than the Oilers,
and they're winning in Ottawa tonight. Crazy. Yeah. In Columbus, it's 5-5 in the second period against the Lightning. What is going on there?
What is happening? What is happening? As Ice Cube likes to call it, the hockey club, awful name, Utah. They're down 1-0 to Boston with Joe Sacco behind the bench, interim head coach there, relieving. Was it Montgomery? Yeah, Jim Montgomery. And I always get John Hines and Jim Montgomery crossed up. And I told this story to someone the other day. Jim Montgomery was actually at Oilers rookie camp in like 2015 or 16 in Jasper. Peter Chiarelli brought him in.
Yeah.
And I remember Peter's like, hey, Tom, you should talk to Jim. He's coaching Denver University, and he's going to be in the NHL soon. I was like, okay. So I went and talked to him, and he was nice. Like, he was pleasant enough. And I was like, hey, Jim, can I interview you tomorrow? Just kind of do, a neat little piece. He's like, yeah, sure. Interviewed him, but kind of dry. But it's kind of neat to see the success he's had. And it's also kind of telling where coaches are at now, where you win the Jack Adams, and then like a year later, you're gassed. It's wild.
So what have you done for me lately, club? And Tom, how many ridiculous texts have we seen about Chris Knoblauch? Like, he's not going anywhere.
More than you would expect. More than you, honestly, like a lot of them, you're like, really? Like, we just hit 1 year of Chris Knoblauch. They went to the Cup final, Game 7. They are 10-8-2 now, and 6 wins in the last 10, like I just mentioned. And the way they've done it has been sloppy. Absolutely. But it's just like, whoa. I've seen people be like, I am so tired of Chris Knoblauch, the way he talks post-game and this and that. And it's just like, people are a little bit antsy. They want their wins, and they want them their way.
You want a little more passion from Chris, kind of just wake up.
But that's not him. That's not him at all.
Just go look at that Amazon. I only saw a clip when they beat Dallas to go to the Cup, and he's in the dressing room. He's like, we're going to the finals, boys. And he's dropping a few F-bombs, but like, it's the most chill post game, we're going to the finals, speech I've ever seen in my life. It was pretty funny.
I just love hitting that button. Stu texts in answering the question of the night, who should be in Zach Hyman's spot on the power play for the Oilers with Hyman out 4 to 7 days. Oddly accurate or specific timing for Zach Cassian, but that's what they do on the medical side of things. Stu says Podkolzin should get a shot up front. He's a big body, could be a net front presence. And then Sean says, try the Podfather, Podkolzin on the power play. And then Coach Mike adds, Hyman was having a disaster of a season before the injury. He was only on pace for 12 goals. Was he nursing an injury to start the season? Coach Mike, honestly, I don't think so. He has taken a few lumps along the way this season, a couple of big hits the last couple of games, and obviously to the point now where he's out for up to a week. If I were to come up with a theory, and I'll stretch it out to Evan Bouchard, maybe Stu Skinner, the guys that are on the radar for Team Canada for the Four Nations and the Olympics, they're not handling it that well, and I think that might be getting in their head. And, they're not the only ones in the league in terms of potential players for Team Canada that are fighting it a little bit. I told a story where a colleague of ours was approached by another GM who made a case for his goalie on the team and said, hey, why'd you write that article? That guy is not as good as my guy. And I was like, whoa, interesting. So, I think that gets in guys' heads because it's not just the Four Nations face-off, Hernan. It's basically you make that Four Nations face-off team, you're kind of penciled in for the Olympic team unless you have a disastrous season the way Hyman is offensively.
And it's easier said than done, but it's like the focus should be on this team right now. And I get it. You're always looking ahead and you're excited.
Yeah,
you always want to be part of Canada greatness, right? So I get that. I just want to drop this courtesy of our big guy, Dustin Nielsen. Four of the Oilers' top 7 point scorers are defensemen. Forwards outside of 97 and 29 need to find a way. That should tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
That the Oilers forwards need to pick it up, and they have not been good enough. And you can work your butt off, and eventually you have to produce, Tom. That's what it's all about. Scoring goals. That's what hockey's about. You need to score goals. And because Chris Knoblauch keeps bringing up metrics and how good they are defensively and how good they are offensively. None of that matters if you can't win games.
Yeah, it doesn't mean diddly.
Yeah.
Nope. Now, if Evan Bouchard was one of those defensemen, maybe Ekholm or Nurse, okay. But it's Bouchard, then Ekholm, then Nurse, then Nugent Hopkins, and then, oh, by the way, Brett Kulak in the top 7 because Draisaitl and McDavid lead the way offensively, as they tend to do. But, yeah, you got those 4 D-men in there. Good on the defensemen, but that's pretty telling of how bad the rest of the forward unit is producing it so far this season. Could it get better? Yes. Will it get better? Time will tell. Let's go. What? Yes,
Smitty
yes,
the
yes,
Welder
yes.
says Josh Brown in another fight tonight. He's not playing, right?
No, he's not expected to play tonight.
Josh, that's what I thought. Josh Brown's not in the lineup.
Unless something changed.
I
Don't
just got the
anticipate him in the lineup.
lineups. He's actually, he's actually in.
Okay, so they have him with Stetcher?
No, Dermot's out. So Josh Brown and Troy Stetcher. Oof, that's a scary pairing, and not in a good way, Tom.
Yep. All right, well, I'm glad we updated that as the team's on the ice for warm-up right now. Okay, we have a couple of texts to get to, 780-218-9999. Brandon from Windsor also getting in on the question of the night. Says it should be Skinner on the PP1 filling in for Zach Hyman, but will probably be Perry. Thanks, Brandon from Windsor. Good to hear from you. And then Big Dave says, I was legit shocked when I heard Knobloch swear on that Amazon series. It was like watching a pastor drop F-bombs. So there you go. We have an updated lineup for the Oilers. We're having a lot of fun chatting, but here it is. McDavid between Podkolzin and Draisaitl, as we call it, the Podkolzin line. Nugent Hopkins between Jeff Skinner and the recently acquired via waivers, Kasperi Kapanen. 1 goal in 10 games, -6, 2 penalty minutes is Kapanen's stat line. Henrique between Janmark and Brown. Derek Ryan with Drake Caggiula, who was called up recently, and Corey Perry. And then here's your update on defense. Ekholm with Bouchard, Kulak with Emberson, Brown, Josh Brown, who was also recalled after being sent down briefly, paired up with Troy Stetcher. That means no Travis Dermott tonight. Stu Skinner is your starter in goal. As for the Minnesota Wild, here is what we're going to see from them. Joel Eriksson-Ek between Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Boldy. Look out for that line. Marco Rossi centering Marcus Johansson and Ryan Hartman. Frederick Gaudreau with Marcus Foligno and Yakov Trenin. Then you've got Marat Husnudinov. Say that one 3 times in a row really fast. I dare ya. Husnudinov with Devon Shore, the former Oiler. Look out. Devon Shore effect. And Jacob Loco. On defense for the Wild, Jake Middleton with Brock Faber, Jonas Brodin with Jared Spurgeon, and Declan Chisholm with Zach Bogosian in goal for the Wild, maybe for the last time we see him here in Edmonton. The great Flower, Marc-Andre Fleury. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so the Oilers sent out lines about an hour ago on Twitter, and it had Dermott with Emberson and Stetcher with Kulak. Smitty the Welder, and I want to give some credit here, Adam from Lloyd. I guess Dermott is sick. That is the reason for the last-minute change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we had it with the way the Oilers initially put it out about an hour ago. That's how they were expected to go via morning skate. And then I was watching Dermott today at the morning skate. I don't know how much the illness was affecting his puck handling, but they were trying to walk the line, and he had a couple of bobbles there. I'm just saying. So
does Kapanen score, Tommy? Does Kapanen score tonight?
Let's be positive and say yes.
Yeah. How about Podkolzin, the pod father?
No, he gets 3 assists tonight.
Okay.
I love it. A big thank you to Sarah McClellan from the Minnesota Star Tribune. A great show, as always, here on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Live on location, Hudson's, White Avenue. I'll be here all night. I'm not going to bounce to the rink because it's a little bit tough out there on the roads. No point in trying to risk it. Big shout out to Johnny Alberta, VR Montenegro, Cal in the Park, and Sarah. I applaud you. All right. Come on down to Hudson's White. Join us. We're going to have a great time watching the game. They've got specials, all-day happy hour on Oilers game days, as well as their in-house lager with the blueberry ale, which is delicious. For Hernan, Salas, and Matt Cassian, I'm Tom Gazzola saying thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you on the post-game show. Ciao for now.